We are after the eclipses, Scorpio season. This is a war in the Middle East, war in Russia, Ukraine, and the world is going to more chaos. How are you doing, my friends? I'm financial astrologer Osher, and we are exclusively in Patreon and core community. It's every Monday with a World Weekly Astrology, and we are going to reflect the collective consciousness of the week ahead and to focus also for the markets on top of what we are seeing on weekly basis for the charts I'm sharing with you. Yesterday I shared the S&P 500 and you see already how this recovery going to go. We are in Scorpio season, and this is meaning that we are seeing the dark and what is happening in the underground, what is happening beneath our stories, what's happening in the tunnels of Hamas, what is happening in the tunnels in Europe for pedophiles, if some of you are familiar with those stories, and more corruptive things that are happening beneath your attention. We are all distracted by different news, and many different agendas are signing in to take forward. And this is a time of risk taking. Those that have developed a night sight can see beyond the noise and the scarcity that we are hearing all over. Of course, we have experienced with what we saw in the TV from October 7th, the hell on earth. We saw some of the darkness, most evil thing appearing in the light, and it's very shocking. But imagine that more horrible things are happening without you even knowing how much cruelty is happening around the world. Israel is just a little grain that the attention is so distracted from evil things happening in Africa, in Asia, in China, and also in the United States. Believe it or not, those are a lot of underground stories there. So this is the time to put our attention on the darkness. Mercury, the mind, the ruler of Gemini, and Mars are in Scorpio. They are traveling together with the sun, and it's very much close to the south node. Those are things that we haven't been able to look before, and now they are showing us the results and consequences. It's also a good time for connecting, not just as a punishment, but connecting with the power of our ancestry, of our past, of our family constellation. The full moon of Taurus that we just had this weekend with the eclipse is very much activating another shield, another layer of our ancestry, but from the fatherhood part that is related to our resources. We know that in a holistic approach, the image of the father is what relates you to sense of security and stability and wealth, the ability to earn money. The women and the mother in our life constellation is related to the self-sufficiency of maintaining with what you have. So all those that have issues with security and money and income and flow has disconnection from the father in their life, and this is a good work to connect when the father was disconnected from the family, where the father died or the father was traumatized, etc. Many of those masculine energy are compensating themselves in this life with everything and manifesting itself as the negative side of the masculine energy that is damaging instead of protecting. The father is who is protecting us and providing, and this is a lot of healing for us to do. Now, together with the North Node in Aries that is near to the asteroid Eris that was just discovered in 2005 as part of the circle of Pluto, is very much indicating the evolutionary process of redefining ourselves out of destruction and out of chaos in a way. And because Saturn and Neptune are finishing Pisces in the next 2 years, we are feeling something that reminds us with what started in 2011, that is related to the Middle East and all the religious things that have so much impact emotionally around the world. All Christians, all Muslims will look to the same place, Jews to Jerusalem and Mecca. So what happened in 2011? Saturn just stationing this week, finalizing Saturn in 0 degrees of Pisces. All this Pisces is where actually is the pain of the religions. So what happened in 2011? The Arab Spring. Suddenly, the Arabs around the world decided to rebel and to change the government structure of their country. And of course, it's impacted more with the civil war in Syria, that for so many years and damages, and what led for so many refugees in Europe out of Syria. And those placements of 2011 are very much emphasized specifically this week and last week, this October. Okay, so I'm going to scan some of the importance of this week, the planetary move. Of course, we are in a risk-on timing. Even the S&P 500 went lower to the same level that I drew months before to members of S&P, where it will go around the black swan that I predicted around October 3rd to the 10th. And even that it arrived a bit closer, it finally closed the gap to when they're back to the 4100. Now it's in a recovery. Long term, we are going lower, but it's not in straight line. And of course, the cryptocurrency that is ruled by the Aquarius and the Scorpionic realm really was a great hedge here, and is a great hedge, not just by the measurement of dollars, but also by the measurement of the freedom it gives you, and the ability to hedge and have sovereignty about your wealth, the way that you trade with people, when whatever will happen to your bank account, whatever will happen in your country. Yeah, as I'm looking on the chart of today, October 30th, Mars and Mercury are traveling together. Yesterday they met exactly in 12 degrees, and now the Mercury start to be faster than Mars, but they are both in Scorpio. The media and the action, it's a lot of war media. This is all about going to more scary situation, but it's not just about propaganda or scarcity. This is really the attention also of ourselves, is about taking risk right now. This is the ideal time to do the dirt work. Wind Scorpio is the time to do sex, but it's like going to touch all the liquids and all the death and all the things that are related with Halloween and with the Day of the Death and all those things, is speaking about death. Let's speak about death. What you are remaining here, what you have experienced here. You know that you are not going to stay here forever, but maybe that you are going to continue reincarnating as your conscious. You are a living consciousness. So all those topics are very much topics uh, to use under this alignment of Scorpio. And this is also about risk taking. So if nothing is forever, and you understand the scheme of different structures of how they moved so far, and we are seeking for balance and fairness, but life is not always fair. Those are so many karmas that we are not aware, not just because what you did, but because what your father did, what your grandmother did, and the way they cheated or the way they took. It's all so many calculation. So all those smart that saying, because they took this land, because they started this, you don't know nothing. Be humble and understand that those are AI calculation that even needs to take more time to understand the so long karmas and debt that are here, with what happened with the British Empire, that how they left the Middle East, and what happened before this with the Turkish Empire, and what happened before with the Roman Empire, and before even this. Those are calculations that only the law of creation, what we call divine justice, has in account. And when we come humble to those calculations of things that are not just because of our hand, we can just do the purge. This is why Mars, that is indicating our ego, is to purge the karma, to change things that didn't happen correctly, to take consciousness on our past and the source of our suffering, and to change it through our responsibility, or having the courage to move to a new direction. Saturn is stationing, so we are feeling that time is frozen as well. And in the next days, as we are starting November 1st, we are going to start feeling, and it's going to increase into November 3rd, 4th. Venus, she's going to oppose Neptune. Venus, she's falling in Virgo, and she's going to oppose Neptune in Pisces. This can lead for another panic, or another, not just panic, but it's a very miserable energy. I feel like grief. Okay, so it's maybe like a feel of a grief, what I need to let go. And it's very much will be appreciated this month, this week, as I'm speaking about you. This is the month of the death. The death. And the death is not the end. This is why Scorpio is not the end, it's just the eighth house. Pisces is the end. But indeed, Saturn is stationing in Pisces. So we are feeling that this is a cliff. But Scorpio is the accident, is the crisis. You need to have a war. You need to transform here something that is to destroy and to construct again, but is not the end. And the promise after Scorpio is Sagittarius will illuminate it. So this week, we are going to face with maybe some griefy event, and it's maybe related to floods. I definitely see here floods coming. In some areas, we're going to see more refugees. We're going to see more selection of Earth, that the Earth is going to swallow some properties, and a lot of properties, by the way, by the next 2 years. I already did a video about it before, what happened in Acapulco, and before what happened. Yeah, those are going to be a lot of natural disasters, and you could blame them and what happened in Hawaii. You could blame all those institutions that will use electronic, but it's also written in astrology. So I don't care. I'm imagine that I don't understand nothing in actuality. I don't read the news. I'm just seeing astrology. I can tell you what events may happen in the world, and those are natural disasters. And those are a lot of karmas. I also spoke that Acapulco is a place with a lot of crime that was known for enough years, with how much suffer also happening underground, even people prefer to see the above it. But we don't know why this happened there. We also don't know why Hawaii happened that, and why even some houses of rich remained. Of course, I don't want to fall into the conspiracies, because I'm telling what I'm seeing in astrology, and such events can happen. And if someone just moved the cloud that I predicted is going to be a rain, and someone just removed the cloud, instead of a disaster in San Francisco, it's become a disaster in Hawaii, maybe. Instead of a disaster in San Diego, it's become a disaster in Acapulco, maybe. But a disaster of those regards should happen in the same price. It should take a sort of a price. The cost should be the same cost. This is an interesting thing to think about, contemplate about it. It's like a deal. It's like a divine deal. Okay, you need now to kill this. If you are not going to kill this, how are you going to pay this debt? Okay, so I will kill. I'm saying kill because this is Scorpio energy, and those are so many accounts about life and death that is like hostages. That those are of the big deals. They are trading with energy. Human life is energy of extraterrestrials, maybe, but this is the greatest trade, human energy, how you are harvesting human energy. This is the greatest energy that is working on this earth. This week, with Venus opposing Neptune, I may expect here a grief or a loss of resources, some death issues, some losses, some bankruptcies are expected here, together with Saturn stopping. I believe, and with Mercury in Scorpio, I believe here a great declaration about a debt or about any new restrictions, any new concept of a financial structure, but it's going to be chaotic anyhow. And this is also why we want to be hedged by freedom tools, that you become yourself sovereign. This is the message in astrology since long time ago, and seemingly that now more people suddenly waking up to this. But okay, it's better to wake up now than never. Yeah, another event that is happening this week around the time that Venus is going to oppose Neptune is that the Sun, which is in Scorpio and near to Mars, is going to oppose Jupiter. We just experienced Mars opposing Jupiter, and we are all seeing and hearing the debates about and very aggressive energy and what is happening in Gaza, and how the world is starting to send more military activity and presence from France, from China, and everybody are waiting according to the prediction I've said already in the last summer, and not much people really wanted to listen. And I'm not a strategist and I'm not a military man. I'm just telling you what astrology, and telling that this is a war prepared, and a lot of countries are preparing to take seats in the Middle East. It's going to be a new configuration of the Middle East, and it's going to be conquer of Lebanon, part of Lebanon, of Syria. It's going to be new agreements with different laws there in Iraq also, I believe. Of course, with Egypt, it may be a conquer of another part of Egypt. This is a lot of mess still coming, and this is why the deal with Israel Palestine is like the small thing. It's very old debate, but now is the time that most countries are preparing for the new world order. Is going to change a lot of the economy, because we know that out of wars, most of the new financial setup happened. We also need to know that, or remember, that when the war in Syria flooded Europe with a lot of Muslims that become very great majority in Europe. 25% of the population in Sweden already Muslim, and this is changing the status quo as well. Is like the quiet conquering culture. So this creates changes, and yeah, this event by itself of the Sun opposing Jupiter in Taurus is since October 2011. So I came to see what exactly was happening in October 11, economically wise and geopolitically wise. And it's very interesting. Economically wise, it was the European debt crisis. So I expect this in those weeks. We're already knowing that is coming, but is also the element of astrology. I was speaking about it for a long time. But this is exactly in 2011. The European debt crisis was at its peak. During this period, several EU nations, particularly Greece, Portugal, Ireland, Spain, and Italy, faced mounting sovereign debt and the risk of default. In October and November 2011, there were various emergency meetings and bailout packages being discussed to save the those economies. So look how interesting, and we back to see about sovereignty of different places and about an economic crisis, maybe not to be exactly on those countries, but in the other family of countries that I believe that are full of Muslim presence. And already we heard that I think that was Sweden that decided to cut the condition, the payment condition for immigrants, Muslim immigrants in their country. Yeah. Another thing that happened, it was the MF global bankruptcy in the late October 2011, as we are now. A major global financial derivatives broker filed for bankruptcy. It was one of the largest bankruptcies in the US history. The collapse was due, in part, and it was just impacting more with what happened in Europe. Of course, very interesting to look what happened in Bitcoin back then in 2011, because this was the time that Bitcoin became interesting to more people. Because until then, it was like $1 barely and very volatile. And of course, it was economically wise also the G20 summit in Cannes. And early November, leaders of the G20 nations met in Cannes, France, and it was a significant summit about the European debt crisis and global economy downturn. And of course, it was part of the Agenda 2020 that led us for the things that we all familiar now and how it's all become digital and the way they manage a very fascinating growth in the last 12 years. And from 2011, also Airbnb came to the world. I participated in one of the inauguration in Spain, in Barcelona. I remember myself living there, and exactly, I moved there around October 2011. And I told my friend, now you could start earning money from your home. And this was a real start of the revolution. I was the first one to sublet my rental place in Airbnb. And look what it became. It's like a monster. Now, what is coming now? It's going to be something new about new resources because it's Jupiter in Taurus. It's about the real estate, but it's going to be probably now a new concept of living. And I believe that we are going to see a lot of evacuation from big cities that are going to be very violent, and a new emerge of new concept of living from different materials, houses in remote places, that the digital revolution will continue to be even more increasing, that will enable us to go more in the air concept. So exciting time on the same time of this destruction. We must have this destruction and this sufferness on the earthly level in order to move to something better. Otherwise, the status quo will continue and no evolution to happen. We must face it. So another event that happened in October, November, as we are now 2011, and this is a reason why I'm looking on this time. These are different important alignment beyond of Sun opposing Jupiter in Taurus. It was the death of Muammar Gaddafi from Libya that ended 42 years of rulership that was very significant due to the Libyan civil war. It was also Yemen protest. Ali Abdul Saleh continued in Yemen, and in November he agreed to step down from power after months of unrest. The US troops withdraw from Iraq in October 2011, and it was floods in Thailand. I'm expecting to see another flood already, maybe this week. And very interesting alignment with what is coming and how it's going to culminate now. It was the recognition of Palestine. In late October and early November, exactly the days that we are now, 12 years ago, with Jupiter in Taurus, in late October and early November, several countries and organizations recognized the statehood of Palestine or upgraded its status. Notably, on November 31st, UNESCO granted full membership to Palestine. So here we are culminating and seeing results, not just of this, it's a combination of many that concepts that were happening. And to summarize this is that Russia and China in 2011 veto on Syria. So it was in October, and they actually was the beginning of a long-standing divide in international community's approach to the Syria conflict. Those ingredients of Russia and China, which are allies, is what most people don't understand when they are trying to say, they will attack there, they. And Russia has big part on the operation that is happening in Syria and also is combined with Iran. Very big things are happening here, but it may take us to a new growth in a different way. And I think that this is going to be the escalation and the culmination end phase of what started in Iraq, in Syria, to design the Middle East, that to me, going to be the new block of prosperity in the next years after the new setup on top on Europe. Europe going to be cold and poor. The climate changes, it's like how people imagine how this crazy vision, but how for many years Europe seeing the Middle East like poor and unrest and desert and poverty. This is going to be the gradual process to happen to Europe. And the Middle East is going to be the new Europe. To call me crazy, this is the vision that I'm seeing. But before this to happen, and we are not all of us will see it fully manifested in our lifetime, because it's not a thing in 1 month, it's years, and we are still preparing for the new agenda 2030. This is a setup of changing and transforming the Middle East to a new power. And the climate change that are happening will make the Middle East again more fresher, more green, and it will change a lot of its its topography of now. It's not going to be roses road to there, and we're still afraid that it's going to be some evil disasters like radioactive frequency destruction, another disease that may kill, or gas or biological thing that can kill millions. Scary. I'm actually speaking about another kind of Holocaust that won't be because of someone, but is because of disaster of materials, natural disasters, and technology explosion that could do damage. How we are planning ahead when we are seeing a risky world, when you understand that you are walking on the ruins of your ancestors, and even just to check your last 2 generations of your family, each one, just to check the last 3 generations. Most of you in the US probably just immigrants. And what's the life, what's the experience of the family, even disconnecting, constructing from new? It's all part of the family constellation. They're resources of our current situation, and so much amnesia of our potency and the legacy of our knowledge. Most people forgot astrology. It took us time to even bring it back to be an immeasurable science. Most of the scientists of the past were astronomers, astrologers, some mathematicians, and the doctors. They were all this. This is what I had to share with you for today. This video become available to general public 2 days after. If you want to enjoy from this video from early access and more of market insights, consider to join our Patreon. And you have even 7 days trial. I'll see you tomorrow inside the community for the oil and gold forecast. This is available for the highest tier. And on Thursday, to most tiers, the crypto forecast 1 month ahead. I'm Osher. Bye.